Hi, this is Sam and welcome to Logic. Today's listening exercise centers around something I have never done before, i.e. a book review. It's not something I ever thought I would ever do, but I've recently come across a great book that I really wanted to talk about because it struck a chord with me in a way that I really did not expect at all. So I thought that the best way to turn this into a language learning experience would be to make an advanced C2 listening video so we can kill two birds with one stone. The book is called Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus, and when I finished reading it a couple of weeks ago, I was so blown away and touched by it that I made a post about it on my Instagram page where I tagged the writer, and she was nice enough to reply and to thank me for mentioning her. So that's my version of rubbing shoulders with the upper echelons of society. It was very unexpected and very much appreciated. To be completely honest, I have no idea or recollection of how this book ended up in my hands. I mean, I found it on Amazon, which must have recommended it to me for reasons that I still do not remember, but I'm very happy that it happened. I usually read psychological thrillers. Now, this is fiction, but it's not a thriller and it's not psychological at all. So again, I don't know how this all came to be, but it was a very pleasant surprise. The book revolves around a woman chemist in the early 60s and the constant obstacles, struggles, and hurdles that she had to face on a daily basis, not just as a woman, but especially as a woman in the world of science, because any kind of the gender equality that we're used to today was obviously not on the cards at the time. And it's really interesting to see how the glass ceiling keeps literally trying to crush her to the ground, but she keeps fighting and fighting and fighting, not just to survive, but also to make a name for herself in the world of science. As a quick synopsis, Elizabeth, the main character, is a chemist who has to fight tooth and nail to survive in the science world because people don't take her seriously, primarily because she's a woman, and also because she's what I would call socially inept, meaning that she rubs people the wrong way and that makes things even harder for her. Also, as unfortunately was to be expected at the time, all the men around her try to take advantage of her, and when she refuses to comply, that leads to all sorts of extra hardship for her. What technically turns out to be even worse for her career is that while she's trying to make headway and new discoveries in a fairly unknown branch of chemistry, she falls in love with another chemist who, unfortunately, is extremely prominent and famous in the business. So obviously that leads to people believing that she's using him and that he's giving her a leg up in her career. I won't tell you how all of this comes about, but she ends up being, well, first of all, pregnant, which is very relevant to the book, but more importantly, she ends up being the presenter of a cooking program on TV. Now, I know I told you earlier that this book is all about the daily obstacles that this woman has to face and overcome in order not to succumb to the standards that society imposes on her and on every single woman out there at the time. But basically, she now ends up being pregnant and cooking for a living, no less. So I understand you must be thinking that this doesn't really match the original idea that I was trying to present to you, but this is not at all how you should see this. What she does on this TV program is groundbreaking because she uses cooking, which is basically chemistry, to teach basic chemistry and everyday little tricks to primarily women who are the ones who watch this channel and this TV program. And it's incredible to see what she can achieve through some basic and innocent cooking. She wants to empower women by teaching them everyday science through something as seemingly mundane as cooking. And as a teacher myself, I can only take my hat off to her and commend her for it because it's absolutely genius. As touching and thought-provoking as the gender inequality aspect of the book is, that is not what resonated with me the most. What I found extremely riveting and almost cathartic and therapeutic is the social ineptitude of Elizabeth, which I mentioned earlier. If you've watched my channel before, you may know that although I am not a scientist, I have a scientific mind. I'm a mathematician at heart, and if I hadn't decided to become a performer instead, I would have studied maths at university. So although I never really did anything with science, I do feel like I belong to the category of scientific minds, and that's exactly why I teach English through mathematical logic on this channel. This allows me to combine my two passions, science and languages, together. And this is where my fascination with this book stems from. You know how it's often said that scientists are brilliant with numbers or at whatever branch of science they specialise in, but they lack social skills. Well, that's exactly how I've always felt my whole life. I know I'm very good at languages, which for me are all based on science, and I know that I used to be very good at maths when I still practiced it, but the one thing I've always felt like I fall down on is being social. I think part of my social ineptitude finds its roots in the fact that I am extremely shy. Now, I know this might come as a shock because I'm a YouTuber and a performer, but although things have got better over the years, I used to suffer, and sometimes still do, from paralysing shyness, which comes into play not only when it comes to approaching people, but also when it comes to standing up for myself. That being said, over the years, I think I've realised I'm a bit of a hybrid, because you have those scientists who just want to spend their whole lives in the lab or on books, and that's wonderful, and I am eternally grateful for these people, because they are those that carry society forward, because they don't really care about anything else rather than research and science, and that's perfect. We owe everything to them. But I'm not exactly like that, because I still want to go out, I still want to meet people, and throughout the years I realised that I have made a lot of progress in the way I go about it. So I've come out of my shell a little bit more, although I still struggle to feel fully comfortable in some situations, because I think there is a little bit more to my social ineptitude than just shyness. It's also the fact that I am brutally honest, just like the character is in the book. Basically, what I've always noticed is that I don't fit into what is considered political correctness. I do not lie, I can't lie, although I am a performer, so I can do it if I'm paid for it, but my face, my brain will not allow me to lie. If I do say something that I don't particularly think, it's very easily noticeable. You can spot it from a mile away. And what I usually do when I have to be polite, even though I don't particularly mean what I say, is that I try to say as little as possible, because that minimizes the amount of mistakes that I can make. I love the societal contrast between everyone in the book and Elizabeth. She has no understanding and no perception of what is socially acceptable. She doesn't really understand social pleasantries, and if you ask her a question, she will tell you exactly what she thinks. And the way she replies and what she says in the book, I can absolutely relate to. Every single thing that she says and does, I can fully feel and see that that's me. But just like in the book, she gets very weird reactions from people because they're not used to or prepared to receiving that kind of brutal honesty and unfiltered brutality. I can see that sometimes my reactions to what people say or what I say engenders the same kind of social discomfort in other people. By the way, I am not at all bragging about this. I am not blowing my own trumpet, and I'm not trying to deliver the message that I feel that I am better than other people, because trust me, this way of being has got me into a lot of socially awkward situations. And just like Elizabeth, I can see that I rub people up the wrong way because of the way that I can be brutally politically incorrect and not very socially aware. You should ask Elizabeth a question if and only if you are fully prepared to receive a shockingly honest answer, because that's all she's going to give you. Now, that does not mean that what she says is the ultimate truth, but it is her truth, and she will not mince her words, and she will not pull any punches when she gives you it. If you start a conversation with her, you must know that you're in for a no-holds-barred interaction that will probably leave you stumped for words. And again, this is exactly why this book struck a chord with me. I could see a lot, if not all of myself, in Elizabeth, in the way she thinks, in the way she reacts to the world, in the way she interacts with it, in the way she sees how other people perceive the world. And this is not at all the kind of experience I was trying to get out of this book. I primarily read it because it was about a chemist. I wanted to read something that had something to do with maths and science rather than just being a psychological thriller, which again is what I usually read. I was not at all ready for this kind of emotional connection and therapy almost. I do not want to turn this into a therapy session because this is just a pretext for us to learn a little bit of advanced vocabulary. But if you have a scientific mind, whether you use it in a scientific way or not, I think you would absolutely love this book because you can really feel a connection to the character, you can take to her, and you can feel that there are other people out there just like you. But this is not all you can take away from this book. The more I think about it, the more I realize that you can make of this book whatever you want. For me personally, the struggles of a woman in a male-dominated world took a bit of a backseat when I realized that I was more intrigued by and connected to the science aspect of her mind and her social life. But if you're a parent, you may want to read this book through the parent's point of view, because the relationship that she has with her daughter, who she never actually wanted, but she does the best to be a good parent to, is really interesting because she lacks social inhibitions. She is very factual with her child, and although I'm not a parent myself, I think there is a lot to be said about how she brings her up in a positive way. And that's it for today. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel down below. And do let me know in the comments if you have any questions, if you've read the book already. And it turns out it's so good, they've already turned it into a TV series. This book is very recent, it's only a couple of years old, but it's already on TV, so that's saying something. Let me know if you've watched it. I haven't yet, and it's on my to-watch list, and I can't wait to see what they've made with the book. In the meantime, I will see you next Tuesday with another explanation video.